Welcome back to LF Tribute. Today's video is a respectful tribute to American celebrities and influential individuals from across the world who have passed away in recent days. Our goal is to share their stories, their legacy, and the impact they left behind. Now, let us begin and remember the remarkable lives we have recently lost.
Robert Carradine passed away at 71, and for anyone who came of age in the 80s, that hits different. Not just because he was talented, but because he was real. The kind of real that doesn't come from acting lessons or image consultants. The kind of real that you either have or you don't. Born the youngest of the legendary Carradine family, he entered the world carrying a name that came loaded with expectation. His father, John, was already a towering figure. His brothers, David and Keith, were carving their own paths. In most families, being the youngest means finding your own lane late. In the Carradine family, it meant you were being watched from day one. At just 18 years old, he stood on a film set beside John Wayne. Think about that for a moment. 18 years old. Most teenagers are figuring out what to do on a Friday night. Robert Carradine was learning his craft from one of the most iconic figures in cinema history, and by all accounts, he held his own. The credits came fast after that. Martin Scorsese's Mean Streets, a film that changed American cinema forever. The Oscar-winning Coming Home, where he stood alongside the great Jane Fonda and Jon Voight in one of the most emotionally devastating films of the 1970s. And then, almost impossibly, 2 films at Cannes in the same year. 2 films. Cannes, the same year. People in the industry who watched his career up close would often lower their voices when talking about him. Not because there was anything negative to say, but because the truth felt almost too big to say out loud. He might have been the most gifted of them all. More gifted than his brothers, more gifted than his father. The one who, if things had broken differently, might have become the name everyone in that family was known for. But life doesn't always hand you the trajectory you deserve. And Robert Carradine knew something about that. What he did get was 1984, and 1984 gave him Louis Skolnick. Revenge of the Nerds wasn't supposed to be a cultural landmark. It was a comedy, a broad, funny, sometimes ridiculous comedy about outsiders finding their place. But something happened when Robert stepped into that role. Louis Skolnick became something more than a character. He became a symbol. For every kid who ever felt like they didn't fit in, whoever sat at the wrong lunch table, whoever felt invisible in a world that seemed designed for someone else, Louis Skolnick was for them. And Robert played him with such warmth, such genuine heart, that an entire generation took that character into their lives and never let go.
2-time WNBA champion, 10-season veteran, a name written in the history of women's basketball in permanent ink. On February 21st, Kara Braxton was involved in a fatal single-car crash on I-285 in Cobb County, Georgia. Her Ford Mustang struck a concrete median wall and came to rest on the shoulder of the highway. Emergency responders arrived quickly. She was rushed to Wellstar Kennestone Hospital with everything the medical team had to give. The WNBA broke the news the following day, not with a press release, not with corporate language, but with the kind of statement that makes you feel the weight of the loss in your chest. It is with profound sadness that we mourn the passing of 2X WNBA champion Kara Braxton. Profound sadness. Those 2 words don't come close, but they were the best anyone could do in that moment. To understand who Kara Braxton was, you have to go back to the beginning. Before the championships, before the All-Star appearances, before the White House. And then, 2008, the championship. The moment that every athlete works their entire life toward, that most never reach. Kara reached it. She held that trophy, and then she stood in the White House and shook the hand of President Barack Obama. A moment that meant something beyond basketball, beyond sport, beyond any single career. It meant that this girl, this young woman who had poured everything she had into her dream, had made it all the way. But here's what Kara Braxton herself would want you to know. The championship wasn't her greatest achievement. She leaves behind her husband Jarvis. She leaves behind 2 sons, and one of those sons, Galani Thurman, just won the college football national championship with Ohio State in 2024. Kara Braxton was a champion on the court, she was a champion at home, and she was a champion in every quiet, invisible way that the people who loved her will spend the rest of their lives remembering. She will not be forgotten, not by the league, not by her sport, and not by anyone who ever watched her play and understood what they were seeing.
Some people arrive in the world already carrying something extraordinary, something that doesn't need to be taught or developed or polished, something that just is. In 2022, a video started circulating online. A teenager from New Zealand, a fake mustache drawn on his face, a Queen song filling the room. And then he opened his mouth. That voice, that impossible, incredible voice coming from a 14-year-old kid sounded like Freddie Mercury had somehow found a way to speak from beyond. Not a copy, not an imitation in the way that word usually means, a channeling, a genuine connection to the spirit of one of the greatest vocalists who ever lived. Millions of people watched that video, then watched it again, then sent it to everyone they knew with the same message: you have to see this. Tuero became famous the way only the internet can make someone famous, instantly, overwhelmingly, and with a warmth that didn't feel like celebrity worship. It felt like the world had found something precious and couldn't help but share it. And through all of it, Tuero remained exactly himself, a teenager from New Zealand who loved music and had a gift he was still learning to understand. The fame didn't change him, the attention didn't inflate him. He was, by every account of everyone who knew him, just a good kid with an extraordinary talent and a smile that made the whole room brighter. Now, that same world that found him and loved him is saying goodbye, and it is doing so far, far too soon. On February 13th, his guardian, Terena, confirmed the heartbreaking news on Instagram. The world held its breath reading those words. The timeline was merciless. On February 6th, just 1 week before, Tuero had complained of a sore leg. A sore leg, something so ordinary that most people would barely mention it. Within days, the situation had become terrifying. Severe vomiting, seizures, a rush to the hospital. Terena never left his side. Through every hour of those final days, she was there. And in his final moments, she did something that tells you everything about the kind of love that surrounded this boy. She read him messages, thousands of them, from fans around the world who had been following his story, who had grown up watching his videos, who had felt something real watching a teenager from New Zealand sing his heart out on a screen. She read those messages aloud so he could feel, physically feel, the love of a world that adored him. That's what she told him, and if you need a moment after reading those words, that's completely understandable. Tuero was laid to rest in Tiree, New Zealand, surrounded by family and the community that raised him. He was 16 years old.
Maria Rita was that person. She was 25 years old. 25, still at the very beginning of everything. The career, the life, the future that stretched out ahead of her like an open road with no end in sight. And she was living it fully, joyfully, with the kind of energy that made everyone around her feel more alive. The day before she died, she was in the studio with her best friend, creating, laughing, being exactly who she was in exactly the place where she was happiest. She had no idea. How could she have known? Maria Rita Rodrigues Silva passed away suddenly on February 21st in São Bernardo do Campo, Brazil. The fashion and beauty influencer had built something real online. More than 65,000 followers on TikTok, more than 11,000 on Instagram. But numbers don't capture what she actually was to the people who followed her. She wasn't content, she was a person. A warm, funny, genuinely magnetic person who happened to share pieces of her life online and who made the people watching feel like they knew her, because in the ways that mattered, they did. Her last post came 2 days before her death. A new pair of sunglasses, a smile,
the kind of effortless, everyday moment that fills social media feeds and usually disappears in the scroll within seconds. But that moment didn't disappear. It stayed, because it was the last one, and now it means everything. Her friend Livia, who had known her for a decade, who had been there through all the years and all the memories that make a friendship into something that feels like family, tried to find words for something that has no adequate words. 10 years, a decade of shared history, inside jokes, late-night conversations, and the quiet kind of love that builds between two people who have truly seen each other. All of it still there, none of it going anywhere, and yet the person at the center of it, gone. Fellow creator Lana Lillian said she was one of those presences that effortlessly illuminate a room. Effortlessly. That word matters, because there are people who work hard to be liked, who perform warmth and charm as a strategy, and then there are people who simply have it, who radiate something genuine that you can't fake and can't manufacture. No official cause of death has been released. The details of why someone so young and so full of life simply stops being there, sometimes those details don't come quickly, and sometimes they don't come at all. Maria Rita was buried on February 23rd, surrounded by the family and community she loved. She was 25 years old. She had a career still finding its shape, friendships still deepening, a life still becoming what it was going to be.
The Brazilian internet is in mourning, and so is everyone who knew her. Bianca Dias was 27 years old, a model, a lifestyle influencer, a presence online and in person that nearly 60,000 people had chosen to follow because something about her felt worth following. She had that quality that is genuinely rare in a world full of people trying to be interesting. She was interesting without trying. She passed away on February 19th in Sao Paulo, and the way it happened makes it feel even more devastating because it happened in the middle of something ordinary, something that thousands of people do every year without incident. Bianca had recently undergone cosmetic surgery. She was at home recovering, the hard part supposedly behind her, the healing ahead. Her friend, Giovanna Borges, was one of the people who knew what actually happened in those final hours, and sharing the details clearly came at a cost. A pulmonary clot, the kind of complication that can follow any surgery, that doctors monitor for and warn about, and that can still arrive without warning and without mercy. Then 2 seizures, and by the time she reached the hospital, it was too late. There was no goodbye. There was no chance for the people who loved her to prepare themselves, to sit with her, to say the things you need to say. One moment she was recovering, the next moment she was gone. Her last post, the one that now sits at the top of her Instagram profile like a monument to a life cut short, was just a selfie, inside a car in Sao Paulo, a completely normal moment, the kind of moment you don't mark as significant because why would you? It was just a Tuesday. Just a quick photo, just life happening the way it happens. That is the thing about the people who leave too soon. The bonds don't break, they just change form. They become the memory you carry when you hear a song she loved, or walk past a place she mentioned, or catch yourself about to text her something funny before you remember. Bianca Dias was laid to rest on February 20th, surrounded by the people who loved her most. She was young. She was vibrant. She was, by every account, the kind of person who made the people around her feel seen.
Eric Dane passed away at 53 after a courageous battle with ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, the disease that takes everything gradually and gives nothing back. Just 10 months after going public with his diagnosis, his family confirmed the news that everyone who had been following his journey had been dreading. He spent his final days the way he had always lived when the cameras weren't rolling, surrounded by the people who mattered most. Dear friends, his devoted wife, his 2 daughters, who were, by every account, the center of his world in a way that no role, no award, no achievement in a career spanning decades could come close to matching.
He lost his father to a gunshot wound when he was 7 years old. 7. At an age when most children are still figuring out how the world works, Eric Dane was already learning the hardest lesson it has to teach, that the people you love can be taken without warning, without explanation, without the chance to say goodbye. He battled addiction. He faced the kind of professional setbacks that end careers and break people. He was counted out more than once by an industry that doesn't wait for you to get back on your feet. The role that made him a household name came on Grey's Anatomy, where his portrayal of Dr. Mark Sloan, charming, complicated, deeply human, earned him a place in the hearts of millions of viewers around the world. But he was never just one character, never content to rest on a single success. His reinvention in Euphoria, one of the most talked about shows of its generation, showed an actor operating at a level that had nothing to do with looks or charm and everything to do with the kind of craft that takes decades to develop. Critics who had taken him for granted for years sat up straight and paid attention. And then came the diagnosis: ALS, the disease that took Stephen Hawking, that took Lou Gehrig, that takes, slowly and with terrible precision, everything the body can do, while leaving the mind entirely intact to watch it happen. Eric Dane did not go quiet. He did not retreat from the world or ask for privacy in a way that would have been completely understandable. Instead, he became a voice, an advocate, someone who used the platform he had built over a lifetime in the spotlight to fight, not just for himself, but for every person living the same diagnosis without a microphone, without an audience, without anyone to amplify their story. His wife, Rebecca Gay Hart, who had filed for divorce in 2018 in a split that made headlines, made a choice when his diagnosis became public. She came back. She was there with him through the hardest chapter of his life, and she was there, beside him, at the end.
Samuel Pack Elliott. Born August 9, 1944 in Sacramento, California. 80 years old, and still, in every sense that matters, completely, unmistakably himself. That last part is the story. That's what we're really talking about when we talk about Sam Elliott. Not just the films, not just the roles, not just the mustache, though we will absolutely talk about the mustache. The real story is about a man who decided very early and without ceremony exactly who he was, and then spent the next 6 decades refusing to be anything else. In an industry built on transformation, on becoming other people for money and applause, that kind of stubborn self-knowledge is either the most naive thing imaginable or the most courageous. In Sam Elliott's case, it turned out to be genius. The story begins in Sacramento, in a house that wasn't wealthy but was rich in the things that actually matter. His father, Henry Nelson Elliott, worked for the California Department of Fish and Game, a practical man, a quiet man, a man who understood that the natural world deserves respect and that words, when they aren't necessary, are better left unsaid. His mother, Glenna Sparks Elliott, was a physical education teacher, a woman of discipline and warmth, who passed to her son both an athletic body and a steadiness of character that no amount of Hollywood pressure would ever manage to shake. When Sam was still young, the family moved to Portland, Oregon. And Portland, the green, rain-soaked, forested Pacific Northwest, got inside him in a way that Sacramento never fully had. He spent his childhood outdoors, in the forests, along the rivers, in the kind of landscape that doesn't try to impress you and doesn't need to. It just exists, enormous and indifferent and beautiful, and asks only that you pay attention. At Jefferson High School in Portland, he was not an academic standout. He was, by his own admission, more drawn to the world outside the classroom than the lessons within it. But he wasn't idle. He was curious, physical, observant. He moved through the world with a natural confidence that never tipped into arrogance, a quality that, it turns out, is extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily attractive on camera. It was during those teenage years that he first encountered the mythology of the American West, not just the geography, the mythology.
The moral language of the old westerns, the codes of honor, the lone figure against the horizon, the idea that a man's worth was measured not by what he said, but by what he did when things got hard. After high school, he moved through Clark College and then the University of Oregon, never quite finding his direction, changing course more than once, eventually leaving without a degree. To some eyes, that looks like failure. To Sam Elliott, those wandering years were essential. They gave him life in a form that no classroom could manufacture. He worked odd jobs. He met all kinds of people. He slowly, inevitably, began to feel the pull of something he couldn't yet name.
And the same year, 1989, brought Lonesome Dove, the landmark miniseries based on Larry McMurtry's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, an epic of the American frontier that became a cultural event. Sam Elliott's performance as Sheriff July Johnson, a man driven by duty across impossible distances, haunted by the weight of his responsibilities, was watched by tens of millions of Americans. The miniseries won multiple Emmy Awards, and Sam Elliott's face and voice were woven permanently into its legacy. 1993 brought Tombstone, the definitive Wyatt Earp film, starring Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer in what many consider his finest performance. Sam Elliott played Virgil Earp with a quiet authority that held its own against one of the most quotable casts in Western film history. He was the moral center, the grounding force, the brother whose steadiness made the chaos around him legible.
His performance in A Star is Born earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, his first Oscar nomination, after more than 5 decades in the industry. Not a Career Achievement Award, not a lifetime recognition, a competitive nomination for a single performance that reminded the entire world what a great actor looks like when he is operating at the peak of his powers. Because real greatness doesn't expire, it deepens. Today, Sam Elliott lives on a ranch in Malibu with his wife, Catherine Ross, the actress he met on the set of The Legacy in 1978 and married in 1984. Catherine Ross was already a legend when they met. The Graduate, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, a woman of extraordinary talent and beauty who had her own complicated relationship with Hollywood's expectations. Their marriage has not been without difficulty. Both are strong-willed, independent people. Both have had careers that pulled in different directions, but they chose each other again and again across the long passage of years. And their union, now entering its 5th decade, stands as one of the great love stories of the entertainment world, not because it was perfect, because it survived. They have a daughter, Cleo Rose Elliott, who built her own creative life as a musician and artist. Sam doesn't talk about her to make himself look good. He talks about her because she is remarkable, and because the love he feels for her is one of the realest things in his life. That restraint, that refusal to use personal relationships as currency in the economy of public approval, is one of the qualities that has always set Sam Elliott apart. He has known loss, of course, the death of his father, Henry, before Sam had fully established himself, before the world had seen what his son was capable of. The loss of his mother, Glenna, who carried inside her a version of him that no one else will ever know. The steady attrition of colleagues and friends, the generation of actors and craftspeople who shaped American cinema in the 1960s and 70s, thinning year by year. He has carried all of it the way men of his generation were taught to carry hard things, quietly, privately, with a dignity that refuses to collapse under the weight of what it holds. At 80 years old, Sam Elliott remains physically imposing and mentally sharp. He rides when he can. He spends time in the open air. He lives at the pace that has always suited him, deliberately, attentively, without the frantic energy of a man trying to outrun something. He has nothing to outrun, and the place he has arrived at is one of the most dignified and respected positions any American performer has ever occupied. Not the most famous, not the most awarded, but something rarer than either of those things. The true original, the one who cannot be replicated or replaced, the one who made something so entirely his own that the entire culture has reorganized itself around its presence.
In an entertainment industry that has always rewarded transformation and reinvention, Sam Elliott built his entire career on the radical act of remaining constant. He found the deepest, truest version of himself very early, and then he spent 50 years going deeper into that truth rather than away from it. The mustache never changed. The voice never changed. The values never changed. That's not stubbornness. That's not stubbornness at all. Samuel Pack Elliott, born August 9, 1944 in Sacramento, California. Still here, still standing.